Steve Jobs introduced the original iPod on October 23, 2001 by pulling it out of his pocket and stating that you, the average person, could hold 1,000 songs in your pocket. This was a major breakthrough and satisfied a lot of customers by offering 5 gigabytes of space at a price of $3.99. By the end of 2001, Apple had sold 125,000 iPods. The next year, Apple continued with the iPod and made it even better than before. They changed the look of the iPod slightly, giving it a touch-sensitive scrolling wheel and an updated center button, but now offered two sizes of storage capacity. There was a 10GB model that was sold for $3.99 and a 20GB model that was sold at a price of $4.99. This 20GB model could hold 4 times the amount as the original iPod. In 2003, Apple slimmed down the iPod and changed up the way it looked completely. They moved the auxiliary buttons, originally part of the outer wheel, to just below the screen. They also added a blue backlight to the display screen and gave the iPod its very own dock connector. This model came in 10, 15, and 30GB models for $2.99, $3.99, and $4.99 respectively. The iPod mini was introduced in 2004 and came in gray, yellow, pink, blue, and green. More than just the standard white of previous iPods, it was the first iPod to feature the signature click wheel that is still used today. It was $249 for a 4GB model. They also added the click wheel to the 4th generation iPod in 2004. Apple offered 20GB and 40GB models this year. Along came the iPod Photo as well during this year. It was basically the 4th generation iPod, but could hold photos as well. This was the first iPod to offer a color screen and hold more than just music. The first iPod Shuffle was introduced in 2005. This iPod was unlike any other that had been developed. There was no screen and it was only used to shuffle all of your songs. It came equipped with a necklace so it could easily be worn around your neck. It came in a 512MB model and a 1GB model for $99 and $149 respectively. The iPod mini was redesigned for this year as well, this time coming in a 6GB or 4GB option. Later on in 2005, Apple sided against the iPod mini and went with the iPod Nano that was thinner and had a color screen. They were offered in a 2GB or 4GB model for $199 and $249. The only downfall to the Nano was that it was very easily scratched and led to many unhappy customers. The 5th generation iPod, also released in 2005, was more flat than its previous models and could now play video and came in a size up to 60GB. Apple redesigned the iPod Shuffle for 2006. They made it much smaller and added a clip to the back so it could be easily attached to clothing for on-the-go people. It was only offered in a silver 1GB model for $79. The Nano was re-released for this year as well, giving it bright colors and a scratch-resistant aluminum shell, fixing the problem that Apple had faced the year before with the Nanos being easily scratched. With 2007 came the Shuffle once again, but it was simply released in more colors with no changes to style or software. It was now offered in pink, green, silver, blue, and orange. Also released was the iPod Classic, which was the 6th generation iPod with improvements and much more storage. The largest model had 160GB of storage for music, videos, and pictures. The Nano was redesigned for this year as well, making it shorter and fatter with a wider screen. Also, it came in 5 colors: blue, red, silver, green, and black. The 4GB model sold for $149 and only offered in silver, and the 8GB model sold for $199 and was offered in all colors. The iPod Touch was first released in this year as well. It had music and internet access, making it the first of its kind. It was sold in 8GB, 16GB, and 32GB models for $300, $400, and $500. There was no scrolling wheel, and all operation was done by touch with fingers and was only offered in a black front and a chrome back. In 2008, the Nano was back to its old similar, taller shape and came in many colors. The screen would rotate if turned on its side and switch songs if it was shaken. It was sold in 8GB and 16GB options. The Touch was also remade and became slimmer with added volume buttons on the side and a built-in speaker. Aside from these changes, it was very similar to the original Touch. The largest model could now hold 64GB for the price of $399. The Classic kept its same shape during this year and was only sold in a 120GB model for $249. The Shuffle was redesigned in 2009, and Apple dropped all buttons on the device itself and used the headphones to control the device. It would tell you what song was playing, and you had to instruct it when you wanted to change songs. It could hold 4 GB for $79. The Nano was recreated with a bigger screen, FM radio, and a camera to take pictures and video. The Touch became better than ever with updated software and was sold with a capacity of 64 GB for the same price as the previous model, $399. The Classic got a software update and was sold for $249 for the 160 GB model. The Nano became something completely different in 2010. Got rid of all buttons and favored a small touchscreen. They offered an 8 GB model for $149 and a 16 GB model for $179. The Shuffle went back to its original design, but even more compact and sold for only $49 for a 2 GB model. They also offered it in 5 colors: silver, blue, orange, pink, and green. Retina display was added to the Touch and it became basically the iPhone without the phone capabilities. It came equipped with cameras on the front and back and was slimmed down to become very skinny. It sold in 8 GB, 32 GB, and 64 GB options. In 2012, the Nano readopted its larger size and stayed with the touchscreen. They offered it in multiple colors, but they could not run apps. They made it in only one size, a 16 GB model for $149. The iPod Touch was also redesigned for 2012. Apple made them skinnier and in multiple colors, ditching the black and chrome look that it had held since the beginning of the Touch. They are offered in 32 GB and 64 GB models. Since 2012, Apple has stayed with the same basic design for their iPod models. They simply re-released the most current models of the Classic, Nano, Shuffle, and Touch.